Dude, sorry, no, whole bit. Of course, the dog should be running around loose, but still, it's not something he wanted to do. She calls the police. So the police come. And she's like, "He's got my dog." And lady's like, "What's your dog running around? You got what you deserve. Bye." And they leave. Well, she's not satisfied with that. Calls Fish and Game, gets a fish cop to come on down. So the fish cop comes on down. He'll be her white knight, okay? So what is he? He looks at here's this new law. Relatively new. It says, failure to report shooting a dog. Charges my guy with that. So the problem is with any Fish and Game violation, it's a 1-year loss of your hunting ability and fishing ability. You lose it. So he didn't want to lose that. It's more, even though it's just a violation. So he comes to me and I said, well, first of all, you didn't have any notice. I mean, by the time you knew, you shot the dog, right? And then this law is a self-incrimination, bomb waiting to happen. I mean, I just said it's unconstitutional. It's fake. So I send in a motion on Fifth Amendment. I put in, some other thing. We go to court, and we got a great defense. And I talk to the fish cop, and by that point, he's tired of this lady. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to just place this on file, which is like a dismissal. Just don't get into trouble for another 6 months, and it all goes away. Client says, fine, no problem. He's not. Never been in trouble before, not going to get in trouble again. It'll go away, he doesn't lose his license, he's all happy. So we leave, we walk down the steps of the courthouse, and he's asking, well, how can I get my gun back? And I said, oh, well, I'm just laying to him. Next thing you know, she's at the top of the steps. And she's yelling and screaming at, you kill my dog! And she's flipping out. She comes running down the steps, starts beating my client. This is my first case in New Hampshire, right? Beating my client in the chest. You kill my dog! And back. And I'm saying, back off, get away from my client, step away. Trying to do something without touch. And then she turns and she says, and you, his motherfucking fat attorney. At which time I said, how dare you call me an attorney? That's right. She was stunned. And then the sheriff's officers grabbed her. And then they're like, my client's called up in a ball, and the sheriff, are you okay? Are you okay? And he just says, I'm just laughing so hard I can't stop. So that was the first, welcome to New Hampshire, the practice of law. Yeah, that was good. So that was where that was at. But let me tell you some interesting things about firearms in New Hampshire. Some people say, why have such a thick book? Well, I tried to cover all the issues and have all the laws that could possibly affect firearm rights. And even though New Hampshire has really great gun laws, there are areas that, of course, need improvement, but they are really great. I want to start with some basics, and we'll talk first about possession. What's the law on possession of firearms in New Hampshire? It's very simple. There's no license required to possess rifles, pistols, shotguns, even machine guns, suppressors. There's no license to possess them under state law. There's no requirement of registration, under state law for any of those items. So the question then becomes, well, how do I lawfully carry them, which we'll get into in a moment. But possession in your home is essentially unregulated, with the exception of if you are a convicted felon. Then there is a deadly weapon prohibition for felons. And if you don't fall under that category, then there's no possessory prohibitions. But of course, other than just keeping in your home, the real question becomes, what about carrying firearms? And that, of course, carrying, we think of the carry license, and of course, it's not a permit here, it's a license, or transport, which is often blended to carry. Now, let's just say there's some really interesting, crazy grid of carry in New Hampshire. I'm going to surprise you with some things right now. But let me just, everyone I think should know that open carry of a handgun is legal in New Hampshire, right? You know that.
Yeah.
Open carry. There is only one place under state law, and we're just talking state law at the moment, that you cannot carry a firearm, or a weapon for that matter. That's a courthouse. So let's just start right there. If I am carrying a handgun legally, we'll talk a little bit more about the legal way. In this case, openly, I can carry anywhere except a courthouse under state law. Now, you know, many states have prohibitions, public places, gatherings, you know, bars, restaurants, libraries,
Groups.
you know, all these places, churches. None of that exists in New Hampshire. The only place you cannot carry under state law is a courthouse. Now, you're carrying your handgun openly. That's legal as long as you don't get in a vehicle. And that's where a lot of people get jammed up, because the law prohibits carrying a loaded handgun in a vehicle or concealed upon your person unless you have a carry license. So now, if you have a carry license, you can carry in the open just like an unlicensed person can. You can carry your handgun concealed, and you can carry your handgun in a vehicle and or concealed. And that's how the carry license law and carrying of a handgun works. But get this. If you carry a loaded long arm concealed, you need no license. So if you want to take your M4 carbine, put it on a single point sling, and carry it right under your coat with no license loaded, there's no gun law in New Hampshire that I can find that you can be charged with in violation. But if you take that loaded long arm into a vehicle, now you can't be charged under the handgun charge, because the handgun would be a Class A misdemeanor for your first offense and a felony after that. Class A misdemeanor in Hampshire, up to 12 months House of Correction. B felony, 3.5 to 7 years state prison. That's the grid on handgun. But now we have our concealed with no license, because there's no license there, M4, really nice Colt 6920 right under our coat, and we are now in the vehicle. What are you going to be charged with? Not that. You're going to be charged with a fish and game violation of having a loaded firearm in a vehicle, which is merely a violation, I might add, in which it's a fine, and there's no jail, and there's no upping of it into felony land or anything like that. So loaded long arm you should not carry in a vehicle if you don't want to have a violation, which I'm sure you don't want to have. But it just shows you the kind of absurdity in a way that if I have, you know, a .22 handgun, I could run into problems, but my, you know, .308 carbine or whatever rifle I want to have, or my shotgun, fully loaded, you know, my nice Benelli M4, no problem, ready to roll, concealed under my coat, or if I get in that vehicle, I'm looking at a violation. So it is odd how that works. Now, yes.
What about open carry of long guns?
No, again, there's no law on open carry of long guns loaded, just like there's no law on open carry for handgun, other than going into a courthouse with either firearm. That would be prohibited. Yes.
What about, specifically in my town, we happen to use the courthouse to hold town council meetings. And so the courthouse security is not in effect, but you do walk through the shell of the magnometer that they have